On the third verse of your psalm, "Believe It," you address segregation in the church and the silence of the church on certain shootings. What's the story behind that verse, and do you think that the church's segregation and silence are related to one another?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I think the church has definitely over the years been silent when it comes to the issues of racial tension, or at times we've been dogmatic about it. And the reason why I say that is because um, a person standing up and saying, hey, "This is not right," usually is met with a lot of pushback. So, I mean, when you look, I mean, I don't like to me. I'm just being honest. Like, let's go to any church in most cities, and they're segregated by color. Like, not just denomination, but by color. You got the black church over here, the white church over there, and most churches are they're homogenous groups of ethnicities. So the lyric is, Sunday is the most segregated day of the week, and it's true. So for me, it's just pointing out that's I don't think when I look in Revelation, God talks about every nation, every tribe coming together. And if we talk about thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, then I think that's a problem. Well, so if we're talking about our faith, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's not what it looks like in heaven. Now, what am I saying? Am I saying that a city that is predominantly, white should have, this church that's like purely equal as far as ethnically? No, that's unrealistic expectations. But I do think, in a perfect world, our churches would resemble where we live, and I don't think every church has to be racially diverse. But I think it's a problem, when, we look at church and they're silent when it comes to a lot of social issues. It's because it's scary. It's because it makes people uncomfortable, and it frustrates people, and it's not a topic that we want to talk about. But guess what, guys? It's not going anywhere, and we have the answer. Like, we have hope, and the gospel is applicable to social issues as well as to our own heart issues, because social issues are heart issues. So that's my stance. How should the church be vocal about police brutality? I would say it goes even deeper than that. I think, we're looking at the immediate problem, which is what we do all the time. So that's like looking at someone and saying, "Oh, you have a cough. Let me just treat your cough." And it's like, no, let me look deeper and say, "Oh, you have a cough because you have a cold, or you have a cough because you have tuberculosis." Like, whatever it is, like, the cough is just a symptom of the bigger issue. And I think the bigger issue is that people, we don't look at one another as human beings. We look at each other as, projects. We look at each other as the enemy, as the mayor of Massachusetts, a mayor in Massachusetts said. He said those are the enemy. I think it was Massachusetts, but he says those are the enemy. I think the church doesn't need to start at police brutality. We need to start at the gospel. We need to start at the beginning, and that is, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. He said, "Let us make man in our image." Like, we have to start there. Like, hey, it's not a great, like, I can't just kill this guy because he's made in the image of God. Like, he is an image bearer of God. We start there first, and I think from there, what you begin to see is you begin to see some of those walls that are built, they begin to come tumbling down. And then, we preach on, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You gotta learn and grow, and I think some of the frustration I have at times is people speak on things that are outside of their understanding, but they speak on them as if they know everything. So you got a guy that doesn't have one black friend, has never, you know, dealt with black people in his life, but he knows how to fix all of the black on black crime in Chicago. how does that work? Like you don't know anything about Chicago. You've never been to Chicago. You've never, you've never walked those streets, but you have the answer to how to fix a problem that's that complicated. It's just like if the answer was simple, don't you think people would have just done it? So a lot of these issues are nuanced, and people they don't necessarily deal with the whole scope of it. So, and why do I think the church? It's important for the church to speak on it, because here's the reality of it. If the church knows the truth, right, and we don't speak on those issues of how to resolve racial reconciliation, and that we don't hate each other because we're all made by God and made in His image, if we're not speaking the truth, then the only thing left to be able to people to try to resolve this issue with is false. It's fake. It's inapplicable. It doesn't work in the long run. So if we say we really have the truth, if that's what you really believe, then yes, you should speak on it. Like, that would be the most hateful thing to do, is not speak on it. I would say it's hateful if I'm about to watch someone get hit by a bus and I'm like, all right, well, I ain't gonna say nothing. Just, they'll figure it out. Like, I'm gonna be quiet because I'm scared that I might ruffle some feathers yelling at that person, hey, don't get hit by that bus. That's hateful, because that person's literally going to lose their life. Well, that's what the church is doing. At times it feels like the church is quiet, and it's like the world with the social issues, is falling apart. And if we feel like we have the truth, why not tell the truth? Whatever the cost is. I see that's what Jesus did. The truth cost Jesus his life. And the Bible says Jesus said, you want to be like me, you got to take up your cross and walk. So, if that guy that's a racist, but he pays, $100,000 in tithes a year, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be okay with ruffling his feathers, because at the end of the day, you're saving his life. You're helping grow him, and if he's not okay with that, then, he has deeper issues that he needs to wrestle with. So.